With the Justice League dead, what's next for DC Comics? You have found yourself in the bizarre side of YouTube, where reality meets fiction, where your stories are read back to you in a dramatic fashion, where I get to pretend to be a voice actor. This is Comicstorian, and we take the time to make you a comic expert by filling you in on the big moments happening within the world of comics right now. We do cut out the B-plots and limit our panel usage to prevent copyright problems, and we allow you to have something to read to yourself if you choose to. I do recommend going to your local comic book store and starting your own collection, or you can use one of our sponsors, Shortboxed. Click the link down below to learn how you can win some comic book collectibles for yourself and discover the world of comics. This is the Road to Dark Crisis and Dark Crisis Part 1. The series will need to be broken up as it's going to be going on until the end of 2022. Now, when we last left off, the Justice League was killed. They were summoned by the Justice League Incarnate into the multiverse to battle against the Darkness. The Darkness used its abilities to eradicate every member of the Justice League except Black Adam. Black Adam was thrown back to Earth Zero, where he informed the world that their mightiest heroes had died. We now go to the Road to Dark Crisis. Sometime since the death of the League had passed, Nightwing leaps over a car, avoiding another blow from Brick, questioning why he's even in Gotham. No Justice League means no Batman. Gotham's prime real estate again, the villain shouts, but Jon Kent comes flying in out of the air, grabbing Brick by the head, slamming him onto the ground. Nightwing pauses for a moment. Okay, 3 things. What are you doing in Gotham? Where were you 15 minutes ago? And I totally had him, Nightwing says, but Jon is shocked, asking how Dick could be making jokes at a time like this. You heard Black Adam! The Justice League is dead! Why are you not freaking out? What if they're really gone? Nightwing looks at him and matter-of-factly pointing out that Superman has already died once. He then turns and walks away, motioning for Jon to follow. The Gotham PD are taking care of Brick, but I think I know what you need, he says, and they head over to a food truck where Dick tells Jon the story about his own father's funeral. About how Batman had a matter-of-fact attitude about Superman's death. That maybe he thought that if he acted worried, the other heroes would too. Dick did something similar after Batman's last death, putting on a new bat suit and continuing on. So you just don't get worried about them dying at all now? Dick shakes his head, pointing out that they react. Jon takes a sip of his drink, telling him that Young Justice is already planting statues and they have a memorial planned. You're all overreacting. The Justice League is coming back, Dick tells him, and Jon looks at him for a moment. What if they don't this time? People don't always come back. Dick frowns, and images of Alfred begin to flash through his mind. The both of them continue to eat their lunch until they are interrupted by a loud explosion nearby, and as they both stand up, Dick thanks Jon for coming by, apologizing for acting like Batman in the situation. I don't want you to be worried, so I try to hide my own worries, he says, and they both quickly change into their superhero costumes, rushing forward to continue in their father's footsteps. Over in Central City, Wally is sitting with Iris, asking how long since she heard from Barry. She looks down, explaining that it's been almost 2 months. That she had kind of gotten used to him disappearing and hadn't thought anything of it until she heard about the League. Avery was with the Justice League Incarnate. What if? Wallace asks, and Wally takes Iris's hand, telling her that they will find Barry and they will bring him home. He leaves Linda with her and motions for Wallace to follow. Grab your suit, Ace. We got work to do. In mere moments, the two Flashes are racing down the streets, with Wally explaining that the last time that Barry died, all of the villains came out in force, thinking that they had a free pass for crime. If the League is really gone, then we're about to get a tidal wave of poorly named bad guys, Wally explains. What do you want us to do about it? Wallace asks, and Wally turns to him and smiles. We're gonna play a little whack-a-mole. Their first stop is the middle of the city, pulling people out of harm's way as Giganta is rampaging. The two of them leap into the air, punching her hard, dropping her to the ground, wrapping her up in her own chains. You come out of hiding again, Giganta, and I'm gonna give you more than an earful, Wally tells her before they dash away. Wallace groans at the jokes, but he looks at Wally and sees him smiling. He knows that Wally West is putting on a brave face to take his mind off of Barry Allen and the League being dead. They grab some of the trench in Happy Harbor, a monster on Midway City, Malcolm Merlin in Park City, and Wally keeps smiling. He keeps distracting himself. After a while, they make a bet to see who can nab the most villains. I get the Northern Hemisphere, you get the South. Fewest villains captured by 8 buys dinner in Chicago, he says, and Wallace nods, speeding off. There he goes. No longer scared, but it doesn't mean that it hurts less, Wally says to himself. He stops at the Flash Museum, looking at the statue of Barry. But the moment is interrupted by his phone. John talking fast, telling him about Cobra attacking Washington. You can count on me, Wally says as he pulls back on his mask, dashing away, the brave face continuing. Meanwhile, over in Sector 2814, Hal Jordan continues to follow the strange creature as he flies through the void of space. This is Green Lantern of Sector 2814. I need backup immediately. I'm in pursuit of a dangerous interplanetary creature, he shouts over the comms. But none of the League is responding because they've died. And the monsters break through the Earth's atmosphere, falling towards the ocean. I need backup. The Viro cannot reach the Earth's oceans. Aquaman, he says again. But the monster shouts as it collides with the water. Hal Jordan tries to follow, but the alien is much faster underwater and begins to morph, its body breaking down into smaller versions of itself. The people of Atlantis look up in shock and fear as they see the strange creatures rushing towards them. But Jackson Hyde suddenly comes rushing past them, swimming up at the aliens at top speed. I wish Arthur was here also. Feels strange not fighting by his side, he says to himself, and he swims amongst the creatures, hitting them with a powerful blast of energy. Whatever you are, you will not get past me, he shouts, but his anger turns to pain as the monsters grab him and they all begin to bite into him. I didn't become Aquaman just to become chump, he shouts, knocking them away, but the green light suddenly fills the area and harpoon constructs stab into the creatures. You kept them occupied, kid. Good job. The name's Hal Jordan, Hal says with a smile, and he tells him he doesn't know what the aliens are, and they're gonna need Arthur Curry. You don't know? He's dead. He and all of the League are dead, Jackson tells Hal, bringing a look of shock to Hal Jordan's face. Hal quickly gains his composure. We've got to stop these things. Jackson nods, ordering Hal to drop his shield. I hope you know what you're doing, Hal tells him, and Jackson shakes his head as he begins to control the water around them. Dude, we're dealing with an alien of unknown origin. They can survive in space and sea. Of course I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just doing, he tells Hal, and the two of them create a massive centrifuge of force. That centrifuge somehow separates the newer aliens from its original form. And in a moment, the parasites that evolved within Earth's ocean disappear, and the original alien floats before them. Jackson is surprised as the alien moves forward, pressing his forehead against Jackson as a show of thanks. They begin to float towards the surface, and Jackson tells Hal that Atlantis will need him with Arthur gone. It's all right, you take all the time you need. I'm gonna find out what happened to the League. But as he's beginning to leave, he turns back, informing Jackson that him and the other young heroes are going to have to step up. The world is going to need all of you right now. I'll be ready, Jackson calls to him. Somewhere else, Pariah, the man who killed the League, walks through the cold winter, moving through a snowy park. But that's when a light flashes and he is now on another Earth in the same park. A young woman tries to help him, asking if he is confused, if he needs help finding something, but the image shifts again, and his young wife is standing before him, asking him to build his machine. But he moves away from her, pointing out that she doesn't exist. But she is everywhere that he looks, explaining to him that she did exist, that he failed her. The world shifts again, and Pariah finds himself back on his home world. And again it shifts, and he is in the park, children playing nearby. There is no universe where Pariah's family still lives, he whispers quietly to himself, but his wife looks up from where the children play. But why couldn't we? Build your machine again, bring us back. You have such power, you can do anything, she tells him, and he walks towards her, putting his hand on her face, telling her that even though this multiverse might be a false one, it will not burn down creation a second time. For a moment, she disappears and he continues onward, but he looks up to see her standing there with their two children. Your work doomed us! And now you say your work cannot save us, she shouts, her anger knocking him to the ground. She reaches down, taking his face into her hands. I will not accept this fate, she shouts, black tears falling from her eyes, dripping onto his face. Build the machine, Pariah! Put things right! She hisses, and he waves her away, getting up, rushing through the park, her voice still echoing through his mind as he rushes to a nearby church. If you would rather die than give your family life, then die! She shouts at him, and he nods, pulling himself up to the church, reaching its rooftops. This is how one saves the world, not with good deeds, but by standing aside and leaving the world alone. With that, the world shifts again, and below him, everything is destroyed. Where am I? This isn't my mind. This is real, he says with a surprise, and a voice of darkness fills his mind again. Yes, Pariah. Now do you see the multiverse is in danger, and this time, only you can save it. Pariah finally nods, darkness filling his eyes, leaking down his cheeks. I'll build the machine. This time I will save the world. My great darkness, he whispers. Meanwhile, we cut back to Gotham City. Nocturne has entered the museum, scaring away the guards as she stalks forward, memories of fighting Batman long ago echoing throughout her mind. She finally finds what she's looking for. An ancient Egyptian necklace that used to worship the night sky. But as she reaches out for it, she looks around, realizing that Batman isn't coming to stop her. Can't do it, can you? A voice calls as Batgirl drops to the floor. Is it because you need a challenge, Natalia? Or is there something you're not telling me about your feelings for Batman? She asks, and Nocturne lashes out at her, asking what it's like to not be good enough to die with the other heroes. You're a backup at best, she snaps, but Batgirl whirls around, kicking her in the face. Looks like I'm more than enough to ruin your night, Stephanie tells her, Nocturne whirling back around, kicking one of her Eskrima sticks away. But Stephanie moves with it, whirling, bringing down the other, and the two stop for a moment. New move, Stephanie? Who taught you that? Nocturna asks, and Batgirl glares at her. He did. She snaps. Their fight is over. Nocturna reaches for the Batgirl's fallen weapon, asking what happened. You know what happened. He's gone and it's different, Batgirl tells her, sighing, stating that Gotham now feels like a black hole, that the night has become even darker. You shouldn't fear the night, even when it's particularly empty, Nocturna tells her. And the conversation is interrupted by Stephanie's comms. That was Oracle. I need to deal with it. Don't steal anything, Batgirl tells her as she turns to go. Enjoy the night, Stephanie, Nocturna tells her. The villain turns to leave but finds Firefly waiting for her on the rooftops. I have an offer. The Secret Society has a place for you. Your skills, your talents would be appreciated. She looks at him, asking why he thinks that she would join them. But he motions off to the side of the roof, pointing to the gathering of villains. We have a plan, Nocturna, and it's so much bigger than Gotham City. We now cut to Dark Crisis, Issue 1. Outside of the Hall of Justice, a gathering of heroes and civilians are standing in a candlelight vigil for our fallen heroes. Nightwing standing before them, giving a speech of what the Justice League meant to the people of Earth. As long as we continue to fight and keep these candles burning, the Justice League's legacy will live on. He finishes, unaware that Deathstroke and his comrades are watching from a nearby rooftop. When the last of the words are uttered, Slade blows out his candle. Weeks later, Jon and Wally fight against Cobra in Washington. Which cult is this again? Jon asks as he knocks another soldier away. Cobra! One of the cultists shouts. Yeah, what he said, Wally calls out, moving fast, pulling people out of harm's way. These attacks are happening all the time now. With the Justice League gone, everyone thinks that it's their time to take a shot, Jon shouts to him, but Wally thinks that this is different. That all of the smaller groups are freaking out while the heavy hitters are keeping quiet. The Cobra army rolls forward in their tanks, proclaiming that the world is lost in darkness. But a massive green boot slams down, knocking them away. And Wally and Jon look up to see Hal Jordan floating towards them. I take my first vacation in years and you let Cobra attack? Hal asks. Perfect timing, Uncle Hal, Wally says with a smile, but Hal isn't smiling. Jon, Wally, what the hell is going on? Where is the Justice League? So, later, the three of them gather around Black Adam's hospital bed within the Hall of Justice as he recounts once again what happened to the League. The last thing that I remember was seeing the Justice League being ripped apart by Pariah's powers. Never have I seen heroes turn to ash like that, transformed into nothingness," he says, looking half asleep, telling them that the darkness was halted, but the League died. Hal looks at him for a moment. "That's the guy you trust, Wally?" he asks, turning and stalking out of the room, and Jon and Wally follow him, explaining that Black Adam has been working with the League, that Superman vouched for him. "We checked his story as best as we could. But then the attacks started happening and it didn't matter if we believed it or not," Wally tells him, but Hal shakes his head, explaining that they need to find out what happened to the Darkness and the Justice League. "Find Barry. I'll look for the perp," he tells them. And Jon doesn't know what to do, but Wally explains that he needs to find his way to shine. Both Hal and Wally leave, and Jon is alone now, flying up to float in front of the statue of his father. He looks at the statues of Batman and Wonder Woman, and a smile crosses his face. Over in Brazil, Yara Flor is fighting against a fire demon that is burning the rainforest around her. "The end is coming, Wonder Girl, and you will be one with the dark!" it shouts, but Jon is there flying out of the sky, punching the monster with Yara. He quickly moves around using his super breath to put out the fires, and afterwards he introduces himself to Yara Flor. "I'm sorry about your father," she says as she shakes her head. "I've seen how much you've been doing to fill his shoes. What brings you to me?" she asks, and Jon is a little sheepish, finally telling her that the world needs a new Justice League. "I'm putting together a team," he says with a broad smile. She looks at him for a moment before she breaks out laughing. No. What is happening across the world is also happening here. I can't ignore that. My responsibilities are to my tribe in the rainforest," she explains, turning and jumping on Jerry the Pegasus's back. "I can't be your Wonder Woman. I'm just me. There's no way I could join a team of superheroes," she says, wishing him luck as she flies away. Jon's next stop is New York City, where the new Batman is chasing down a truck of gunrunners. But Jon is suddenly there, stopping the truck in its tracks, and Batman screeches to stop as Jon pulls the gunrunners free. "Hey, look at us, the new world's finest," Jon says with a smile as he floats down to the new Batman. "The Trigger twins were leading me to the arms supplier. You messed that up," Jace growls at him, and Jon apologizes, quickly explaining the situation. "Superman needs Batman," he says with a hopeful smile, but Jace shakes his head. "Not this one. Go ask one of the Robins," he says as he speeds away. But Jon once again won't be deterred. He moves through the world, gathering as many heroes as he can for his new team, until finally he returns to the Hall of Justice, where he discovers Black Adam talking to himself as he watches a group of people gathering outside. "Black Adam, who are you talking to?" Jon asks as he comes up behind the god, and Black Adam whirls around. "Never use that super hearing on me, boy." Jon apologizes but points out that Adam should be resting. "People of Kahndaq need me," he says as he moves to leave, but Jon stops him. "Wait, I know I've only been Superman for a brief time, but I'm learning. From Nightwing, from Hal, from Wally, and now you. I know what the world needs. We need the new Justice League." Black Adam turns to go. "There is no Justice League. The world needs capable protectors, not children," he says, and he floats into the air, flying out the door. "You're trying to run before you can walk, son of Kal-El. You are not ready for this role, and you and I both know who should lead a new Justice League." Meanwhile, over at Titan's Academy, Nightwing watches as the students begin their work on the trapeze. "Today's lesson is about trust. There's no net," he explains as they begin to flip and hang from the wires. Below them, the others are watching, with Cyborg pointing out that he's turning them into a circus. "Stop, Victor. You know this is Richard's favorite class," Starfire says, but Chupacabra comes around the corner dripping blood, and Nightwing is there in a moment, asking the young hero who did this. He looks down in shock as he sees a bomb strapped to the kid's chest. That explosion, it wasn't stopped. It ripped through Titan's tower, with the core Titans right there and the new students right there. And the villains from afar begin their assault outside. And Deathstroke, the same Deathstroke who was supposed to be dead, gathers with his top officers. "Leave the teachers to me. I'm going to hurt them like never before. Kill Legacy once and for all." A couple of villains bring a wounded Beast Boy over. "Hey boss, look who I found spying on us," they say, and Deathstroke pulls out his pistol as Garth is pushed to his knees. "What the hell, Slade? You destroy Titan's tower all you want. You know we'll just rebuild it again." Beast Boy snaps and Deathstroke nods, putting that gun to Garth's head. We're not gonna destroy Titan's Tower, Garfield. We're gonna let it stand as a bloody warning to anyone who tries to pick up the torch and put on a costume. With that, Deathstroke pulls the trigger. Meanwhile, over in the darkness of Multiverse 2, Pariah begins to rebuild his machine, talking to himself. The Justice League wasn't enough. We need more heroes from Earth Zero. Once the skies turn red, we will be brought to Earth Zero, and I will use the deaths of the Justice League to destroy the multiverse. He shouts, and energy crackles around him, energy powered by the deaths of the Justice League. And that concludes the intro to Dark Crisis. Now, we're getting one issue per month, and what I intend to do is every week bring you the crossover events. Next week, we're going to be crossing over to see The Search for Barry Allen, and we're going to find out what's going on with Young Justice, and we're going to catch you up on what's happening with Wally West. So if you want to keep up with that, make sure you check back next week, or hit that notification bell, or hit subscribe, or hit like, or follow us on Patreon for early access. Thank you guys so much for everything you do for us, and I'll see you next time right here.